Hey, it's Maureen Muldoon, and we're here today with lesson 133 of A Course in Miracles, the workbook lessons. And the lesson is, I will not value what is valueless. So, again, we're moving through this series of lessons, and one of the things that comes up for me around not valuing what is the valueless. So, my will, my plans, my agenda, my thoughts, my opinions, all of that is valueless. What's valuable is for me to stay open to the grand plan of God and for me to stop thinking that my plan is the best so that I can be available to God's plan. This is two different ways of looking at the world. One of them is more like that Tony Robbins, like get her done, set an intention, bust your ass, get up early, make sure that this is your sole purpose is to, crash this glass ceiling. And the other way is more like Mother Teresa, where it's just like, thy will be done. It's weird to use those two particular personality types, but you can see that through Mother Teresa's actions. I don't know, no disrespect to Tony Robbins, but he carries a very intense and intentional and filled with tension type way of being. And this is not A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is more of a surrender, like a letting go, and not trying to push your agenda through. It's more of a softness, and it's quite liberating when you experience and allow that type of power to move through you, because it moves through you, but it's not of you, and it's not something you manifest, and it's not done through your own will. It's through surrendering your will. So I will not value what is valueless. Sometimes through teaching, there's a benefit, particularly after you've gone through what seems theoretical and far from what the student has already learned, to bring him back to practical concerns. This we will do today. We will not speak of lofty, worldly, encompassing ideas, but dwell instead on benefits to you. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little when you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things you buy, to eminence as valued by the world. You ask for sorrow, not for happiness. This course does not attempt to take from you the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfaction which the world contains. There is no satisfaction in the world. We want to be in the world, but not of the world. And we want to enjoy the world as we might enjoy the world as if we were the exhale of God. And when God exhales us, this is just kind of poetic. When God exhales us, we move into a separate state of God. And we're out in this world and we're flowing and growing with each other. But be sure that God's going to inhale us again. And on the exhale of God, and as the exhale of God, we don't want to try and make a whole bunch out of this separate state of God, because it's nothing. We only want to enjoy ourselves, go for the ride, knowing we're returning. This is only part of the breath of God. We're in the exhale, and we're going to move into the inhale, and we'll return to our oneness with God. But we should never lose sight of what animates us. And what animates us is the Spirit of God. Today we list the real criteria by which to test all things you think you want. Unless they meet these sound requirements, they are not worth desiring at all, for they can but replace what offers more. The laws that govern choice you cannot make, no more than you can make alternatives from which to choose. The choosing you can do, indeed you must, but it's wise to learn the laws you set in motion when you choose and what alternatives you choose between. This is a really great lesson because it literally gives us the criteria for choosing, and you can use, I think they're like 4 criteria. You can use those 4 criteria for every single decision that you make, and you should use this criteria for every single decision that you make. And you only ever choose between 1 or 2 things. And number 4 says, we've already stressed that there are but 2. However many choices there appear to be, the range is set, and this we cannot change. It would be most ungenerous to you to let alternatives be limitless and thus delay your final choice until you have considered all of them in time and not been brought so clearly to the place where there is but one choice that must be made. It's interesting because the egoic realm of being in the separate state gives us so many choices, right? And this is a tool of the ego to keep us fractured. So the best thing to do is just to see if you can get it down to just two choices, love or fear. Another kindly and related law is that there is no compromise in what your choice must bring. It cannot give you a little, for there is no in between. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Consider that. Therefore, if you learn the test by which you can distinguish everything from nothing, you will make the better choice. This is good information today, don't you think? First of all, number one, this is the first criteria. If you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. A temporal value is without all value. Time can never take away a value that is real. What fades and dies was never there, and makes no offering to him who chooses it. He is deceived by nothing in a form he thinks he likes. So let's look at that. What I like to say is, if it can die, it will die. Anything that has an expiration date on it is something that lives in the sands of time. We don't want to choose things that die, and we want to get beneath all of that. So the kid will grow up, the relationship will eventually die, the job will end. So we don't want to look for and seek for the things that are susceptible to time. In the relationship, we always want to find love, in any form that it shows up. In the job, we want to find love and helpfulness for as long as we're helpful. If that experience should end, we don't cling to it. We don't say, oh my God, I'm not my job anymore. I'm losing my job. Who cares? Form follows consciousness. So we want to always tap into consciousness. Consciousness has no expiration date on it. It lives on forever and forever and forever and a day, like Christ consciousness. So we want to invest in Christ consciousness, or in the consciousness of love, and not worry about the form. The form will come and go a million times till Tuesday. It's almost like like I said, we're living on the sands of time. We make sandcastles with each other. We're supposed to play with these sandcastles. We're not supposed to take them seriously. We're certainly not supposed to pour cement over them and start to build fences around them and say, this is my sandcastle and not yours. That's ridiculous. And I know that we have a whole thought system that's based around exactly that. So we're not going to undo the whole thought system, but at least we can walk gently amongst this thought system without taking it too seriously. So the first criteria is, if it has an expiration date on it, don't choose it. Choose the river beneath the river. Choose the consciousness that brought it into form. So don't get hung up on, I need that guy, that house, those shoes. Just say, well, I would like to experience romance in the form of a reciprocal nature of love. I would love to have a beautiful place to live with bright light and happy people. It doesn't matter what the form looks like. You can have your preferences, but don't let them have you. And you can, fancy your desires, but always we want to go to the God qualities of that desire. So it would be like if I were to begging God for a car, really what I should just be focusing on is knowing that God is my perfect transportation, holding the consciousness that God is my perfect transportation, and however that shows up will be divine. So not to try and block God's plans with my plans. It's big stuff. Number 2. Next, if you choose to take a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. This is because when you deny his right to everything, you have denied your own. You therefore will not recognize the things you really have, denying they are there. Who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain. Your loss must offer loss and nothing more. So this is really clear, and it states it in the 10 Commandments, like, I will not, what's that commandment about I will not, my neighbor's something?
Covet my neighbor's wife
Thank you.
or ox.
I will not covet my neighbor's ox or wife. So that's probably an old, archaic interpretation of this lesson, but it's basically saying, like, I will not take that which is not mine. Like, if I try and take something that's not mine, I'm not honoring what is mine. And that's what this lesson says. If you think you can get by taking, you're always going to be at lack. Number two, so let's go review the criteria. I don't want what's limited to in time. I don't want that, and I don't want what's not mine. Number three, your next consideration is the one in which the others rest. Why is this choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? Here is the easiest of all to be deceived. For what the ego wants, it fails to recognize. It does not even tell the truth as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the halo which it uses to protect its goals from tarnish and from rust, that you may see how innocent it is. So, a great criteria to consider when you're making a decision. First of all, don't choose what's not eternal. Second of all, don't choose what's not yours. Third of all, be really clear why you're choosing this. Why am I choosing this? Am I choosing this out of fear that I'm not enough, or that I need to fill some sort of God hole? Or am I choosing this because it feels like this is something that's in alignment with God's plan for me? So always, 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 always question, like, what is the purpose of this choice? So number 9 says, yet is its camouflage a thin veneer which could deceive but those who are content to be deceived. Its goals are obvious to anyone who cares to look for them. Here is deception doubled, for the one who is deceived will not perceive that he has merely failed to gain. He will believe that he has served the ego's hidden goals. Yet, though he tries to keep its halo clear within his vision, still must he perceive its tarnished edges and its rusted core. His ineffectual mistakes appear as sins to him, because he looks upon the tarnish as his own, the rust a sign of deep unworthiness within himself. He who would still preserve the ego's goals and serve them as his own makes no mistake according to the dictates of his guide. The guidance teaches it is error to believe that sins are but mistakes, for who would suffer for his sins if this were so? This is sort of an interesting one because it makes me think of this time when I was doing the show. And in the show, it was a show for breast cancer, and it was to raise money for breast cancer. And my mom, when I was a kid, had breast cancer. So I felt in doing this show that I was being the good person, and I had sort of like this false halo. I was wearing like this false halo. I didn't know it at the time. So it's sort of embarrassing to admit this, but at the time I really thought, no, I'm raising money for breast cancer and I'm doing really good work. And at the time, everybody who was in that show, it became like an egoic shitstorm. Like, we did raise money. It was a great show, but backstage it was trauma and drama. And it stemmed from me. You know, I played a major part in it. And it came from me because I came to create that show from a guilty place. Because when I was a kid, I was doing a show, and my mom was really sick, and she wanted me to come home and give her a private show wearing my costume and singing. And I was so embarrassed about coming home in my costume that I didn't do it. And I never gave her that show. And I had this guilty purpose. So my purpose was embedded and woven with guilt. And so it's no wonder that it was such a shit show. But the good news is I did get a clear reinterpretation of the situation, and I did get another chance to do that show, and I did get to come to that show with like an open heart and an unguilty perspective. And I did get to come to it not like I'm so guilty and I should give this show up to, all those who suffer from breast cancer, but I did get to come to it and have fun. And so that was such a great classroom for me. Sometimes ego makes you look really stupid. And that's a bumper sticker, my friend. So that's what it means by like the rusty halo. Like, we think we're doing such good work in the world, and it's like, No, you're not. You're coming from a place of brokenness, and you're getting your needs met through trying to be better, but not from a holy purpose. A holy purpose should always feel fun and joyful. So, number 11. And so we come to the criteria for choice, which is the hardest to believe because its obviousness is overlaid with many levels of obscurity. If you feel guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives, and thus you do not realize there are but two, and the alternatives you think you choose seems fearful and too dangerous to be the nothingness it actually is. All things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all, entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke. So we might get confused. We might think these decisions are so complex. We might think, oh my God, this is so hard. I'm between a rock and a hard place. But it's saying all of that is a screen of smoke. It's actually quite easy to choose for love. So even when you feel confused in regards to decision making, say, Holy Spirit, I know that you're going to direct me clearly and that this choice is going to be so obvious that I won't be able to go astray. It says the complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke which hides the very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. That's what it says, that no decision can be difficult. What is the gain to you in learning this? It is far more than merely letting you make the choices easily and without pain. Heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open mind, which comes with nothing to find everything and claim it as its own. We will attempt to reach this state today, with self-deception laid aside and with an honest willingness to value but the truly valuable and the real. Our 2 extended practice periods of 15 minutes begin with this. I will not value what is valueless, and only what has value do I seek, for only that do I desire to find. So, 13 says, heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open mind. That means no agenda from me, not my will, but God's will. Number 14, and then receive what waits for everyone who reaches, unencumbered, to the gate of heaven, which swings open as he comes. Should you begin to let yourself collect some needless burdens or believe you see some difficult decisions facing you, to be quick to answer with this simple thought. I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me. So what God has in store for you, without all of your guilty penance and all your wayward ways and all of your running around the block with your hair on fire and all your pushing forward your agenda and all of your thinking like, I need this to happen. What God has on the other side of that is beyond what we could even attempt to value. It's like true freedom, true ease, true grace. And you deserve that. And that's the end of that lesson, yeah. So this is a really great lesson. I will not value what is valueless. Let's review the little criteria again. First of all, it's always only 2 choices, love or fear. Second of all, don't value what is not eternal. Second of all, don't take what is not yours. Third of all, remember to always ask, what's the purpose of this? Is the purpose of this to extend love, or is the purpose to make me feel better? Is this feeding the ego, or is this feeding love? And number 4 is, what is number 4? So easy to forget. Number 4. If it causes guilt, choose again. If it causes guilt, choose again. So try them out. Try out these criteria. Write them down on a little piece of paper, carry them around with you, put them on your phone, and when you have a decision to make and you feel like you're getting hung up or strung out on it, like go through it. Say, how can I choose not the form but the consciousness? How can I make sure that I'm not choosing what's not mine? How can I remember to ask what the purpose is, and how can I avoid the traps of choosing from a place of guilt or fear? And you'll surprise yourself by choosing for the optimal idea, and you'll find yourself coming to awakening, and you'll also find that most decisions that are made in love are made easily and without too much of your input, because love is the natural agenda that's happening at all times. If we let go of our sideways agendas, we get to fall into it and get swept up by it. So that is the news today. Thanks for playing. Thanks for praying. Thanks for staying. If you like it, like it. If you want more, subscribe. And if you want to put some gas in the tank, share it with your friends, because an idea shared is strengthened. God bless. Love you.